The comments flooded the screen so quickly they blurred together. He's here. The mystery winner actually showed up. Turn the camera toward him. The studio lights burned against my eyes as thousands of viewers watched through the influencer's live stream. Music pounded through hidden speakers while assistants rushed between cameras. Lena smiled with practiced perfection. The woman who had spent 6 months telling me I was different. The woman who said I was the only person who treated her like a normal human instead of an internet celebrity. The woman who had whispered over late-night calls, "Maybe destiny just needs a little push." That destiny had become her newest viral event. Find the hidden clues across my city. Solve the final puzzle. Win one weekend with me. Millions watched. Thousands competed. Only one person solved every clue. Me. I stood on the stage wearing the same navy jacket she'd once said made me look dependable. She barely glanced at me. Instead, she kept checking the entrance. Her smile wasn't nervous. It was expectant. Not for me. For someone else. The feeling settled into my stomach before I understood why. "Before we announce everything," she told the audience, "there's someone I've been hoping would come tonight." The crowd erupted. My chest tightened. I forced myself to smile. Maybe she meant me. Maybe this was simply part of the show. The producer counted down with his fingers. 3, 2, 1. The giant screen behind us changed. A montage filled it. Photos, videos, memories. None of them included me. A young man laughed beside Lena on a beach. Another picture showed them eating noodles at a tiny street stall. Another showed matching bracelets. Another showed him sleeping on a train while she secretly photographed him. The audience went silent. "So," Lena laughed nervously, "there's something I've never told everyone." I couldn't breathe. She looked directly into camera one instead of looking at me. "For 3 years." Her voice trembled. "I've only loved one person." The young man's face filled the screen. He disappeared from my life before I became famous. Comments exploded faster than anyone could read. "Who is he? What about the winner? Is this scripted?" Lena continued speaking. "I created the Mystery Boyfriend Challenge because I hoped he'd recognize the clues." My fingers slowly unclenched. Not from anger. From understanding. The clues. Every location. The train station. The beach cafe. The bookstore. I had thought they were random puzzles. They had never been puzzles. They were memories. Someone else's memories. She turned toward me for the first time. "I'm sorry." Just those 2 words. Nothing more. The host looked horrified. "Lena, we still have Mr. Carter standing here." She nodded weakly. "I know." No. That was all. 6 months of conversations. Months encouraging me. Weeks congratulating me. Then, I never expected someone else to solve them. The room became unbearably quiet. I heard my own heartbeat. She stepped closer. "So, if Ethan is watching." Her voice broke. "Please come home." Not a single word was meant for me. Not one. The cameras remained live. Millions watched me become the mistake. Someone whispered behind a camera. "Cut." The producer shook his head violently. "No. Ratings. Of course. Ratings." Humiliation attracted viewers. I looked at Lena one last time. She looked guilty. Not heartbroken. Just guilty that I happened to be standing there. "You should finish your show." My voice surprised even me. Calm. Flat. She blinked. "You are not angry." I almost laughed. Anger required expectation. Mine had already died. "I think," I said quietly, "you've already chosen who tonight belongs to." Then I removed the winner's badge from my jacket, placed it carefully on the table, turned around, and walked away. No dramatic speech. No accusations. No tears. Only footsteps. Behind me, the audience finally remembered how to breathe. Someone shouted my name. Another called me back. I didn't stop. Outside, rain had begun falling over the city. My phone vibrated endlessly. Unknown numbers. Journalists. Friends. Notifications. I muted everything. The studio doors closed behind me. For the first time in months. Silence felt kinder than hope. An hour later, I sat alone beneath the subway overpass, watching rainwater gather around my shoes. My phone vibrated again. This time it was my younger sister. "Nathan." I answered. She didn't greet me. She simply asked, "Are you somewhere safe?" "Yes." "You lied." I said I'm safe. "Not okay." "No." Silence stretched between us. I watched everything. "I know. I wanted to drive there." "I'm glad you didn't." She sighed. "You spent months helping her." "I chose to." "You skipped birthdays." "I know." "You designed puzzles for her fan events." "I know." You answered calls at 3 in the morning. I know. Every sentence felt like another mirror reflecting the man I had become. She spoke softly. You loved someone who only looked through you. Rain tapped against the steel beams overhead. I think. I whispered. I loved who I believed she was. By sunrise, my name had become a trending topic. Not because I had won, because I had walked away. Every platform replayed the same 30 seconds. Lena saying, I've only loved one person. Then the camera cutting to my face. Then my quiet exit. People slowed the footage, analyzed every expression, invented emotions I never felt. Some called me pathetic. Others called me dignified. Neither group knew me. I turned my phone face down. It didn't matter. At 9 in the morning, someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 sharp knocks. I already knew who it was. When I opened it, Lena stood there wearing sunglasses despite the cloudy weather. No makeup, no cameras, just exhaustion. I've been calling. I noticed. Can I come in? I stepped aside without speaking. She entered slowly, looking around the apartment she'd only ever seen through video calls. So this is where you live. You didn't ask before. She flinched. I deserve that. No. I closed the door. You deserve honesty. She removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were swollen. I never wanted to hurt you. I believe you. She looked surprised. You do? Hurting me simply wasn't important enough to consider. Those words struck harder than shouting ever could. She lowered her head. I thought Ethan would recognize the clues. I know. I never imagined that someone else would solve memories they never lived. She nodded. Yes. I poured 2 glasses of water, placed one before her. She didn't touch it. I owe you an explanation. You don't. I do. I sat across from her, then waited. After nearly a minute, she spoke. Ethan and I met in university. She smiled faintly despite herself. We were impossible. Different majors, different families, different dreams. But somehow, we always found each other. Her fingers tightened around the untouched glass. Then one day, he disappeared. No goodbye, no message, no explanation. His number stopped working. His apartment was empty. I searched for almost 2 years. So when I became famous, she laughed bitterly. I thought maybe fame would help him find me. The challenge was really a map. I nodded slowly. Everything fit together now. Every strange location, every impossible clue, every emotional reaction she'd had while discussing them. None had ever been about me. She looked at me with red eyes. But you kept solving everything. You were kind. You never asked me for money. You never tried to use me. She swallowed. I started depending on you. There it was. Not love. Dependence. Companionship. Convenience. I confused comfort with courage. She whispered the sentence like a confession. I should have stopped everything. Instead, I kept hoping I'd figure it out. You didn't. No. Silence returned. This time neither of us rushed to fill it. Finally she asked, can we still be friends? I looked out the window. The rain had stopped. People walked toward work carrying umbrellas they no longer needed. Life moved forward without asking permission. When I was 14, I said quietly, my father taught me something. She waited. He said that if someone keeps you standing in the doorway, you'll never build a home. She stared at me. I've been standing in your doorway for months. I don't want it anymore. Tears rolled down her face. I'm sorry. I know. I really am. I know. I'll make it up to you. I smiled gently. No. Why not? Because then we'd both spend years pretending there's a debt. She covered her mouth. I don't hate you. That made her cry harder. I stood and opened the apartment door. Finally walked away. She remained seated for several seconds, as though accepting the truth required physical effort. Then she stood. At the doorway she turned around. I hope someday someone chooses you first. I answered honestly. So do I. She left. I closed the door quietly. No dramatic music. No triumphant victory. Only a peaceful emptiness where constant waiting had once lived. Across the city, another notification appeared on my muted phone. Breaking news. Anonymous man from viral livestream rejects influencer's public apology. I never opened the article. Some stories no longer belong to me. But somewhere beyond the headlines, someone else had been watching that livestream. Someone whose name neither Lena nor I had spoken since the broadcast ended. Ethan. And before sunset, he finally sent a message. Not to Lena. To me. We need to talk. My phone remained on the kitchen table for almost an hour. The message never changed. We need to talk. No profile picture. No social media account attached. Just a phone number and 2 words. If this really was Ethan, then the man Lena had searched for over 3 years had chosen to contact me instead of her. That alone felt wrong. I picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over the screen. I typed a reply. Who is this? The answer came almost immediately. The man whose face ruined your night. I stared at the screen. There was no arrogance in the message. Only exhaustion. Another text arrived. I watched the live stream. I owe you an explanation. I leaned back in my chair. For months, I had believed every answer lay with Lena. Now the one person she had desperately searched for wanted to tell his side. After several minutes, I replied. Where? The cafe was almost empty. Rain had driven most customers away. I chose a seat near the window. At exactly 3 o'clock, a man wearing a gray hoodie entered. He looked older than the photos from Lena's slideshow. Not because of age, because life had carved quiet lines into his face. He spotted me immediately. You must be Nathan. You must be Ethan. He gave a tired smile. I wish we'd met under different circumstances. So do I. Neither of us reached for the coffee. For nearly a minute, we simply observed each other. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. I never entered that challenge. I figured. I didn't know it even existed until yesterday. That sentence stopped me. You didn't. He shook his head. I don't follow influencers. But he laughed bitterly. My coworker recognized my face on the live stream. I frowned. Lena said she created everything hoping you'd find it. I know. Then why? I disappeared? He finished my question before I could. I nodded. Ethan looked outside. I didn't leave because I stopped loving her. His voice was calm. I left because someone made sure I had no choice. Something inside me tightened. What do you mean? My father. He smiled without humor. He built his company from nothing. He believed emotions weaken people. When he discovered Lena and I planned to marry after graduation, Ethan's fingers tightened around his coffee cup. He bought my silence. I stared at him. I refused. He didn't ask twice. The cafe suddenly felt colder. He froze every account with my name, canceled my tuition, threatened everyone helping me. And finally, Ethan paused. He offered Lena's father enough money to move the entire family overseas. I blinked. Lena never left. Because her father refused. He nodded. I found out later. I thought they accepted. So I disappeared believing she'd chosen her family. And she believed you'd abandoned her. Exactly. Years of heartbreak. Created by one man's obsession with control. You never tried contacting her? I did. He laughed quietly. My emails bounced. My number changed. My letters were returned unopened. I even came back once. When, 2 years ago, his expression darkened. I saw photographers surrounding her. She looked happy. So I left again. I closed my eyes. 2 people had spent years suffering because both believed the other had moved on. Yet somehow, none of that erased what happened to me. Ethan looked directly at me. I didn't ask to become the reason your life exploded. I know. I'm sorry. You don't owe me that apology. I do. He reached into his backpack. A thick brown envelope landed on the table. What is this? My father's company. I frowned. I don't understand. You will. He pushed the envelope toward me. I've been investigating him for almost a year. I slowly opened it. Contracts. Financial records. Photos. Bank transfers. Every page carried the same company logo. Westbridge Media Holdings. The name felt familiar. Then it hit me. Westbridge. The investment company that had recently become Lena's largest sponsor. I looked up sharply. They're funding her. They're controlling her. Ethan corrected. They invested 6 months ago. Exactly 6 months. The same time Lena and I started talking every night. A chill ran through me. You think this is connected? I don't think. He pulled out one final document. I know. The contract contained one handwritten clause. Maintain public relationship growth through audience engagement campaigns. Challenges. Mystery boyfriend. Everything. What are you saying? Ethan's voice dropped. My father didn't just separate us years ago. He saw Lena's fame. He bought part of it. I left the cafe carrying the envelope, but feeling far heavier than its weight. The city looked unchanged. Traffic moved. People laughed. Advertisements flashed across giant digital billboards. One of them featured Lena smiling beneath the words, "Be yourself." The irony stung. My phone rang before I reached the subway. It was Olivia. My younger sister answered before I could speak. You met him. You knew? I saw you leave the cafe. I stopped walking. You followed me. I worried. She stepped from behind a newspaper stand, holding 2 paper cups of tea. I sighed. You're terrible at spying. I wasn't hiding very hard. She handed me 1 cup. So, he's real. And he never abandoned her. She listened without interrupting as I explained everything. The father, the contracts, the investment company, the missing years. When I finished, Olivia remained silent for a long moment. Finally, she asked, "Do you still want answers?" I looked down at the envelope. I wanted closure. And now I don't know what this is. She nodded. Then don't confuse curiosity with responsibility. Her words stayed with me long after we separated. 2 days later, another storm hit the internet. Not because of me. Because Lena canceled every scheduled live stream. Sponsors issued vague statements. Fans demanded explanations. Rumors multiplied by the hour. Meanwhile, I returned to work. No interviews. No social media posts. No public statements. My office overlooked the river. For the first time in months, I finished an entire project without checking my phone every few minutes. Peace felt unfamiliar. Near sunset, my manager entered. "Nathan." "Yes." "Reception says someone insists on seeing you." "I'm busy. They said you'll change your mind." I frowned. "Who?" He hesitated. "Lena's manager." The woman introduced herself as Serena. Perfect posture. Expensive suit. Professional smile. She didn't waste time. "We'd like to offer you a contract." I almost laughed. "I'm an architect. You could become much more." "I'm not interested." She slid a folder across my desk. "Our research shows your public approval rating has risen dramatically." "My what?" "People admire your composure." "I didn't ask them to." "Exactly." She smiled. "Authenticity sells." I closed the folder without opening it. "I think you're in the wrong office." "No." She leaned forward. "We want you and Lena to film one final conversation." "No." "A closure video." "No." "It would help repair." "No." For the first time, her smile disappeared. "You aren't even asking the price." "I don't need to. This could change your life." "It already has." She studied me carefully. "You still love her." I met her eyes. "No." "You hate her." "No." "Then why refuse?" I stood. Because not every wound deserves an audience. The room became completely silent. Serena slowly gathered the untouched contract. "You've made this very difficult." I wasn't trying to make it easy. She walked toward the door. Before leaving, she stopped. "One piece of advice." I said nothing. "Westbridge doesn't like people refusing their plans." She left. The door clicked shut. I remained standing. For several seconds, I simply stared at the empty chair where she had been sitting. Then I opened Ethan's envelope again. One document had slipped loose. It hadn't been there before. A handwritten note. Only 1 sentence. "If they contact you, it means they're afraid of what you already know." My heartbeat slowed instead of racing. I folded the note carefully. For the first time since the live stream, I understood something important. Walking away didn't mean the past had stopped chasing me. It simply meant I would no longer chase it. Outside my office window, a black sedan had been parked across the street for nearly an hour. When I looked directly at it, the driver immediately rolled up the window and drove away. Not broken. Unlocked. I was certain I had locked it the night before. The hallway looked untouched. The books remained on the shelf. Nothing appeared stolen. Yet the silence felt wrong. I walked through each room slowly. Kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living room. Everything was exactly where I had left it. Then I noticed the dining table. A single white envelope rested in the center. No stamp. No address. Just my name written in black ink. Nathan. I didn't touch it immediately. Instead, I called Olivia. She answered on the second ring. "What's wrong?" "Someone entered my apartment." "I'm coming." "Don't." "I'm already grabbing my keys." 20 minutes later, she stood beside me, arms folded tightly. "You didn't open it?" I waited. "Good." Using a pen from my desk, I lifted the envelope open. Inside was only 1 sheet of paper. Typed. No signature. "Walk away completely. Forget Westbridge. Forget Ethan. Forget Lena. Some truths destroy everyone who touches them." Olivia looked up. "That's not a warning. It's a threat." I nodded. The realization settled over me quietly. Someone had entered my home simply to remind me that I could be watched. No valuables taken. No violence. Just control. The same kind of control Ethan had described. I folded the paper and slipped it into a folder. "We're reporting this." Olivia frowned. They probably wore gloves. Probably. They'll deny everything. I know. Then why bother? Because silence isn't the same as surrender. That afternoon I met Ethan again. This time he looked more tired than before. You got one too? I asked. He smiled bitterly. You can tell. He placed an identical envelope on the cafe table. So they're escalating. They're nervous. I looked at him. What exactly are they afraid of? Instead of answering, Ethan opened his laptop. A spreadsheet appeared. Hundreds of payments. Influencer names. Production companies. Marketing agencies. Every line connected back to Westbridge. They don't just invest. He tapped the screen. They manufacture stories. What do you mean? Fake rivalries. Public breakups. Charity scandals. Relationship challenges. Every campaign generated attention. Every headline increased profits. I stared at the figures. So the mystery boyfriend challenge became too valuable to stop. He finished my sentence. Lena wanted to cancel it several times. How do you know? I still know someone inside Westbridge. He hesitated. Actually, the cafe door opened. A woman in her early 30s walked in wearing a plain beige coat. No designer bag. No dramatic entrance. She simply sat beside us. My name is Claire. She offered her hand. I work in Westbridge's legal department. Worked. Past tense. I resigned yesterday. Ethan nodded. Claire has been helping me quietly. She looked directly at me. I've watched your live stream more times than I'd like. I'm sorry. She shook her head. You shouldn't apologize. Then she placed a flash drive on the table. This contains internal emails. My pulse quickened. Are they real? I copied them myself. She leaned closer. They pressured Lena into extending the campaign because audience engagement kept rising. What kind of pressure? They threatened to withdraw sponsorship. So she agreed? Claire's expression became complicated. Not immediately. What happened? Someone convinced her. Who? Claire looked at Ethan. Then back at me. The CEO. Ethan's father. Silence swallowed the table. Claire continued. He told her the challenge would help Ethan find her. My jaw tightened. So he manipulated both of them. Yes. And me. Yes. Every person had been moved like a chess piece. Not out of cruelty. Out of profit. Claire hesitated before speaking again. There's something else. Neither Ethan nor I interrupted. The live stream wasn't supposed to happen that way. I frowned. What do you mean? The slideshow. It wasn't approved. Ethan looked confused. Lena created it herself? Claire nodded. She bypassed production. For the first time, she ignored Westbridge's script. The room felt strangely quiet after Claire's confession. I replayed the night in my head. The producer refusing to cut the cameras. The panic behind the scenes. The assistants whispering. None of it had matched a planned publicity stunt. You mean? I said slowly. They didn't know she would reveal Ethan? Claire nodded. They expected her to announce you as the winner. I blinked. What? She reached into her bag and removed another folder. Inside were printed production notes. Highlighted sections covered nearly every page. One line caught my attention immediately. Winner will participate in 6-month collaborative content plan. Another line followed. Romantic progression to remain ambiguous for audience retention. I felt sick. They wanted to turn me into content. Claire didn't deny it. You weren't chosen because of who you were. You were chosen because viewers liked your image. I laughed once. Not because anything was funny. Because it finally explained everything. The constant encouragement. The delayed announcements. The vague promises. Every emotional moment had also been market research. Ethan watched me carefully. You okay? I am now. He frowned. Now. I spent weeks wondering what was wrong with me. I looked at the papers. Turns out, I was never competing for someone's heart. I was filling a business role. No one argued. Because it was true. That evening, my phone rang again. This time the caller ID displayed Lena. I considered ignoring it. Instead, I answered. Hello. Her voice sounded unusually calm. They know you've met Ethan. I assumed that. Nathan. She stopped speaking. What is it? I found something. What? A recording. My grip tightened. What kind? The meeting. What meeting? The one where they convinced me not to cancel the challenge. I stood from my chair. You recorded it? I didn't mean to. It happened accidentally. When? The day before the final event. My heartbeat quickened. Does anyone else know? No. Keep it that way. I don't think I can. Fear entered her voice for the first time. They've been following me. Across the table, Ethan immediately noticed my expression. What happened? He mouthed silently. I placed the call on speaker. Lena. Yes. Where are you? Silence. Then, a car door slammed. Someone shouted in the distance. Lena inhaled sharply. I think. Her voice trembled. They found me. The call disconnected. For several seconds, nobody moved. Claire was the first to react. They won't risk hurting her publicly. Ethan was already grabbing his car keys. We're going. I remained seated. Both of them looked at me. Aren't you coming? I closed the production folder. No. Ethan stared. She's in danger. I know. Claire looked confused. You aren't angry enough to abandon her. I'm not. Then why? I looked through the cafe window. Police sirens echoed faintly somewhere across the city. If I run toward every fire she finds herself in, I'll never truly leave the life I already walked away from. Ethan studied me for several long seconds. Then he nodded. I understand. He and Claire rushed out. I stayed behind. Not because I didn't care. Because this battle had never belonged to me. For the first time in months, I refused to become someone else's sacrifice again. As the cafe door closed behind them, my phone vibrated once more. A new message. Unknown number. Attached was a single photograph. It showed me sitting inside the cafe, taken from outside the window. The caption beneath it contained only 6 words. You should have stayed uninvolved. The photograph stayed on my screen for a long time. Not because I was afraid. Because I was tired. Months ago, a message like this would have sent me running, to explain, to defend, to fix someone else's disaster. Now I simply locked my phone. The threat didn't disappear. Neither did my decision. At 7 the next morning, my apartment buzzer rang. Olivia stood outside with 2 coffees and an expression that told me she had already read the news. You've seen it. She nodded before I finished speaking. Lena's disappeared. The headline covered every major website. Top influencer cancels all appearances. Representative refuses comment. No one mentioned threats. No one mentioned Westbridge. No one mentioned Ethan. The public believed it was another publicity stunt. Olivia placed her coffee on the table. So what? Are you going to hide forever? I'm going to work. She sighed. I wasn't asking about your job. I know. She sat across from me. I've watched you for weeks. You've become calmer. I've become honest. No. She smiled faintly. You've stopped confusing responsibility with love. Her words settled quietly between us. Maybe that was the biggest change. I no longer believed saving someone proved I cared. Sometimes walking away was the only honest answer. Near noon, my office receptionist called. Mr. Carter? Yes. There's a woman asking for you. Name? Claire. I told her to send Claire upstairs. She entered looking nothing like the composed lawyer I'd met days earlier. Her coat was wrinkled. Dark circles framed her eyes. They searched my apartment. I stood immediately. Are you all right? They took my work laptop. But they missed this. She removed another flash drive from her pocket. I kept a backup. I frowned. What's on it? The board meeting. What board meeting? The one after the live stream. She looked directly at me. The meeting where they blamed Lena. An hour later, the 3 of us, Claire, Olivia, and I, sat in a private conference room. The video loaded. A polished boardroom appeared on screen. Around a long table sat 8 executives. At the head was a silver-haired man with an expression so calm it felt unnatural. Ethan's father, Victor Hale. Even through the recording, his presence dominated the room. One executive spoke first. The campaign failed. Victor didn't even look at him. No. His voice remained perfectly level. The campaign succeeded. But public opinion doubled engagement. Another executive shifted nervously. The girl exposed Ethan. Victor folded his hands. An emotional mistake. We'll replace her. The sentence landed with chilling simplicity. Replace her. As though she weren't a human being. Only an asset. Another voice asked. And the winner? Victor smiled. He'll disappear. Silence followed. Not one person questioned him. Then Victor continued. Offer him money first. If he refuses. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Every person at that table understood. The recording ended. No dramatic confession. No shouted orders. Just cold certainty. Claire exhaled slowly. This alone isn't enough for court. But combined with the financial records. She looked at me. It becomes a pattern. My phone rang. Ethan. I answered immediately. I found Lena. Relief passed through me before I could stop it. Is she okay? She's shaken. Where are you? A safe place. He hesitated. Nathan. What? She wants to speak with you. I remained silent. After several seconds, I heard Lena's voice. Soft. Unsteady. I know I don't deserve your time. You don't have to say that. I do. She inhaled deeply. I kept thinking I could fix everything. You can't. I know. Another long silence. Then she whispered. I found the original contract. What contract? The sponsorship agreement. I closed my eyes. And it includes a handwritten amendment. What does it say? Her answer came slowly. They specifically instructed me never to reveal who won my trust until the audience reached its peak. My fingers tightened around the phone. So, she continued, even if I'd chosen someone honestly, I wasn't allowed to tell him. That night, Claire arranged a meeting with an investigative journalist named Daniel Brooks. Unlike the television reporters who had chased viral headlines, Daniel had spent 20 years exposing corporate fraud. He listened without interrupting. No dramatic reactions. No eager promises. When the recordings finished, he simply asked, "Can every document be verified?" Claire nodded. "Yes." "Ethan, I'll testify." Daniel looked at me. "And you?" I thought carefully before answering. "I'll confirm only what I personally experienced." He smiled faintly. "Good. People who exaggerate destroy their own credibility." He gathered the files into a leather briefcase. "If this story is real," he looked around the room, "it won't stay hidden." 3 days passed. No headlines. No articles. Nothing. Life continued with unsettling normality. Then, on Friday morning, every major news outlet released the same investigation within minutes of each other. Westbridge accused of manipulating online creators. Leaked recordings reveal executive pressure. Influencer contracts under government review. The internet exploded. Not because of gossip. Because of evidence. Clips from the board meeting spread everywhere. Victor Hale's calm voice became impossible to ignore. "We'll replace her." Those 3 words echoed across every platform. Sponsors suspended agreements. Investors demanded emergency meetings. Government regulators announced formal investigations. Employees anonymously released even more internal documents. The company didn't collapse in a single day. It began collapsing under the weight of its own secrets. Exactly as Ethan had predicted. Late that evening, Victor Hale held a press conference. For the first time, I watched one of his public appearances. He stood behind a podium wearing a flawless suit. The allegations against Westbridge are misleading. Flashbulbs exploded. A reporter raised her hand. "Did you manipulate relationship-based marketing campaigns?" "We complied with all legal requirements." Another reporter spoke. "Did you instruct employees to replace creators who refused cooperation?" Victor remained expressionless. "The recording lacks context." Then someone in the back shouted, "What about your son?" The room fell silent. Victor paused for the first time. Only 1 second. But millions noticed it. "I have no comment regarding private family matters." The conference ended minutes later. His control had finally cracked. Not dramatically, just enough for everyone to see. That evening, Ethan sent me one final message. "It's over." I replied, "Not yet." A minute later he called. "What do you mean?" "Companies recover. So, truth doesn't." He laughed quietly. "You've changed." I stopped waiting for someone else to decide my worth. There was genuine warmth in his voice. "I wish we'd met years ago." "So do I." We ended the call. I stepped onto my apartment balcony. Below, the city moved exactly as it always had. Cars. Lights. People hurrying home. Months ago, I believed the live stream had destroyed my life. Now I understood something different. It had destroyed an illusion. And without that illusion, I could finally see the road ahead. Not toward revenge. Not toward forgiveness. Simply forward. The first Monday after Westbridge's collapse felt strangely ordinary. No reporters waited outside my apartment. No anonymous envelopes appeared beneath my door. No unknown numbers flooded my phone. Silence had returned. This time, it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I unlocked the office door before sunrise. The architecture firm was still quiet. Sunlight slowly spread across unfinished blueprints covering my desk. For months, I had barely noticed my own work. Every spare moment had belonged to someone else's life. Now I studied the drawings with fresh eyes. Concrete, glass, light, balance. Things that stood because they had solid foundations. Unlike the relationships I had spent months chasing. "You're smiling." I looked up. My manager, Daniel Wu, stood at the doorway holding 2 coffees. I am. You've been here for years. He handed me a cup. That's the first genuine smile I've seen. I laughed softly. I guess I was overdue. He leaned against the doorframe. You know, we've been discussing something. I raised an eyebrow. What? The Riverside Cultural Center. I immediately recognized the name. It was the firm's largest public project, a design competition involving several international companies. I thought Mr. Harrison was leading it. He declined. Why? He accepted an overseas position. Daniel looked directly at me. The partners unanimously chose someone else. My heartbeat slowed. Who? He smiled. You. I blinked. You're joking. I've never joked about work. He placed a folder on my desk. The board believes you're ready. I stared at the project documents. For years I had wanted an opportunity like this. Yet during the months with Lena, I had nearly forgotten my own dreams. Words failed me. Daniel noticed. You earned this long before the internet learned your name. That sentence meant more than any public praise ever could. The Riverside project consumed the following weeks. Client meetings, late-night revisions, structural models, budget negotiations. For the first time in a long while, exhaustion came from building something instead of repairing broken emotions. One evening, Olivia visited the office carrying takeout boxes. You still forget dinner. I'm improving. She looked around the conference room covered in scale models. So this is the famous project. I nodded. What do you think? She walked slowly around the largest model. A riverside plaza connected by curved pedestrian bridges. Open gardens. A public library. Children's spaces. She smiled. This looks like you. I laughed. Buildings look like people now. They do. How? You stop trying to impress everyone. She pointed toward the central courtyard. There's nothing flashy. Everything has a purpose. I looked at the model differently. Maybe she was right. Later that night, as we packed away documents, Olivia spoke again. I saw Lena. My hands paused. Where? At a volunteer center. I looked at her. No cameras. No assistants. No live stream. Just boxes of donated books. I remained silent. Olivia studied my expression carefully. Does hearing that hurt? No. Relieve you? A little. She nodded. I think she's finally living without an audience. That image stayed with me longer than I expected. Not because I missed her. Because I genuinely hoped it was true. People deserve the chance to become better, even if they could never return to the lives they had damaged. A month later, Ethan invited me to lunch. The cafe we met in overlooked the river. He looked different, lighter. The tension that had once lived behind his eyes had disappeared. You've been busy. He nodded. I started teaching. I smiled. University? Engineering. I figured I spent enough years letting my father decide my future. He stirred his coffee thoughtfully. Not anymore. We talked for nearly 2 hours. About work. About family. About ordinary things. It struck me how strange life could be. The man I once believed was my unseen rival had become someone I genuinely respected. Not because we shared pain. Because neither of us allowed pain to define us. Before leaving, Ethan reached into his bag. I almost forgot. He handed me a small envelope. Inside was an old photograph. The same one from Lena's slideshow. Only this copy had writing on the back. To Ethan, if we ever lose each other, I hope life is kind to you. I looked up. You should keep this. I made a copy. He smiled. The original belongs with the person who wrote it. You've spoken to her? He nodded slowly. We talked. And we forgave each other. He paused. But forgiveness isn't the same as going back. I understood exactly what he meant. Autumn arrived quietly. Construction permits for the Riverside Cultural Center received final approval. Our firm celebrated with a small dinner instead of an extravagant party. After months of unwanted attention, I appreciated the simplicity. Near the end of the evening, Daniel Wu raised a glass. To Nathan, everyone looked toward me. He reminded us that integrity isn't something clients buy. It isn't something headlines create. It's something we choose every day. The room applauded. I felt embarrassed, but grateful. As I left the restaurant, someone called my name. Nathan. I turned. Lena stood across the street. No designer clothes. No security team. No cameras. Just a simple beige coat and a paper bag filled with books. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she smiled gently. You look well. I am. I'm glad. There was no awkwardness. Only the quiet recognition of two people whose lives had once crossed deeply. I heard about the cultural center. You still read the news? She laughed softly. Only local news. I stopped reading comments. Best decision I ever made. I believed her. She looked toward the river. I volunteer nearby every Thursday. I know. She looked surprised. Olivia told me. Lena nodded. I wasn't sure if she'd judge me. My sister usually judges everyone. That earned a genuine laugh. The first one I'd ever heard from her that wasn't meant for an audience. After a comfortable silence, she reached into the paper bag. I wanted to return something. She handed me a small notebook. My notebook. The one I'd filled months earlier with puzzle ideas and architectural sketches while helping plan her events. I found it during the investigation. I flipped through the pages. Nothing had changed, except the final page. She had written one sentence beneath my last sketch. Thank you for being kind, even when I wasn't. I closed the notebook carefully. You don't owe me thanks. I know. She smiled sadly, but I wanted to say it anyway. The wind carried fallen leaves across the sidewalk. People passed us without recognizing either of us. For once, anonymity felt like a gift. I won't keep you. She stepped backward. I just wanted you to have that. I nodded. I hope your life is peaceful. She looked at me for a long moment. I think peace is something people build. She glanced at the notebook. You taught me that without realizing it. Then she turned and walked away. I didn't call after her. I didn't watch until she disappeared. Some endings didn't need one final dramatic scene. They only needed acceptance. I tucked the notebook under my arm and continued toward the river. The city lights reflected across the water. Ahead of me stood the construction site where the cultural center would soon rise. Steel foundations stretched into the distance. Strong, steady, built to last. For the first time in a very long while, I looked toward the future without wondering who might be waiting there. I only wondered what I would build next. Winter arrived on the morning the Riverside Cultural Center officially opened. The river reflected pale sunlight across the glass facade while families gathered outside the entrance. Children raced through the courtyard. Elderly couples wandered beneath the trees. Students filled the library before noon. Exactly as I had imagined when the project existed only as pencil lines inside a notebook. I stood near the back of the crowd. No speeches. No spotlight. That had been my request. Daniel Wu ignored half of it. He found me anyway. There you are. I was hiding. I noticed. He handed me a visitor's badge. The mayor keeps asking for the lead architect. I'm sure he'll survive without meeting me. Daniel laughed. You've become difficult. I've become selective. Fair enough. He glanced toward the crowd. You know? What? You used to spend every break checking your phone. I instinctively reached into my pocket. My phone was there. Silent. No unread messages. No anxiety. No waiting. Daniel smiled. See? I nodded. I do. The ceremony ended just before noon. As visitors explored the building, I wandered through the library alone. Rows of books stretched beneath warm sunlight pouring through enormous windows. Children sat reading on colorful cushions. An elderly man quietly helped his granddaughter sound out difficult words. Life. Ordinary life. The kind I'd nearly sacrificed chasing someone else's attention. A familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. I wondered if you'd hide in here. Olivia walked toward me carrying 2 cups of tea. You know me too well. I've had years of practice. She handed me 1 cup. I invited someone. I raised an eyebrow. Without asking, you'll forgive me. Before I could respond, Ethan entered the library. He wore a navy coat and carried a thin folder beneath one arm. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all. We found a quiet table overlooking the river. For several minutes, we simply watched people enjoy the building. Finally, Ethan slid the folder toward me. I've been meaning to give you this. What is it? My father's resignation. I frowned. I thought he was removed. He was. Ethan nodded. This came afterward. I opened the folder. The letter contained only a few paragraphs. No excuses. No apology. No admission of guilt. Only a formal resignation from every position he held. At the bottom sat one handwritten line. Control is easiest to mistake for strength. I looked at Ethan. He wrote that. He did. Do you believe he means it? Ethan thought for a long moment. I don't know. And maybe. He looked around the library. It doesn't matter anymore. I slowly closed the folder. He was right. Whether Victor regretted his choices or not could never return lost years. Consequences had already arrived. Not through revenge, through truth. Before leaving, Ethan stopped beside the library entrance. I accepted a teaching position overseas. When spring, I smiled. Congratulations. I almost turned it down. Because of everything here? He nodded. Then I remembered something you said. What was that? If someone keeps you standing in the doorway. He smiled. You'll never build a home. I laughed quietly. I guess my father wasn't the only one teaching lessons. He extended his hand. Instead, I pulled him into a brief embrace. Take care of yourself. You too. Then he left, not as the ghost from someone else's story, but as a friend beginning his own. Nearly a year after the live stream, my phone buzzed while I was reviewing construction plans for another project. A notification appeared, not from social media, not from the news, from an unknown email address. Attached was a short message. Thank you for walking away when you did. If you had stayed, none of us would have learned who we really were. There was no request to meet, no apology, no attempt to reopen the past, just gratitude. I read it once, then archived it. Some messages deserve to be kept, not because they changed the future, because they finally respected it. That evening I walked through Riverside Cultural Center after closing hours. The staff had gone home. The lights reflected softly across the polished floors. I paused in the central courtyard. The same courtyard Olivia once said looked like me. Nothing flashy. Everything with purpose. Footsteps echoed behind me. Daniel Wu, you still inspect your buildings after hours? They're quieter. He nodded toward the empty benches. You know what people say about this place? What? They say it feels peaceful. I smiled. That's the nicest compliment an architect can receive. He looked at me carefully. I think it fits the architect too. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Snow began drifting into the courtyard. Small, silent, unhurried. Daniel eventually excused himself, leaving me alone beneath the open sky. I sat on one of the wooden benches. The cold air filled my lungs. Months earlier, I had believed the worst moment of my life was standing on a brightly lit stage while millions watched another man's photograph replace my future. Now, looking back, I realized something different. The live stream hadn't proven I was unwanted. It had revealed I had been waiting in the wrong place. There was a difference. One made me a victim. The other gave me a choice. I stood and looked across the quiet courtyard. Children would laugh here tomorrow. Students would study. Families would gather. People who would never know my name would still enjoy something I had built. That was enough. More than enough. I slipped my hands into my coat pockets and walked toward the exit. Behind me, the lights of the cultural center glowed warmly against the winter night. Ahead of me, the city stretched outward with streets I had never explored and opportunities one had never imagined. For the first time, I wasn't searching for someone to choose me. I had already chosen the life I wanted. And as the doors closed quietly behind me, I never looked back.